Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Montoursville Area Board of School Directors on Tuesday, July 12th of 2022. The time is 7 p.m. This time I'll ask the Secretary to call roll.
Mr. Albert.
Here.
Mr. Badger.
Here.
Dr. Beery.
Here.
Dr. LaCrone.
Here.
Dr. Mathers.
Here.
Mr. Schimmel.
Here.
Mr. Snell.
Here.
Mr. Ulmer.
Here.
And Mr. Young.
Here. Okay, this time I'll invite those present to rise and join in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm not aware of, on this next item on the agenda, I'm not aware of any recognitions or presentations. So we'll move on to the student representative. Zachary, okay, that's fine, that's fine.
We have a lot going on this summer. It's pretty evident, in my opinion.
Okay, very good. And we'll move on to the reading of the minutes, the approval of review of the minutes from Tuesday, June 14, 2022, the regular meeting. Was there any notations of corrections needed or anything like that?
Yes. Page 2, or P2, I voted no on P2.
Okay. Yep. Okay, if there's no other amendments, corrections, or whatever, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes as corrected by Mr. Snell.
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, I don't believe there's a prior presentation, however, I guess a couple of housekeeping items. There was a late breaking agenda item to be added, a supplemental, if you will, related to a P for personnel, it'd be a P3. Unfortunately, the document only went out to certain staff members. I talked to council. This should fall under a de minimis status because we're not spending money. This is a position that's already been approved. It's budgeted. It was hung up. It's a coaching position. It was hung up because of clearances. The clearances came in last minute, and pretty important to have this head softball coach start immediately because of the season is close. Anyway, the P3 would be to appoint Michaela Arnold as the head softball coach. The stipend is $3,000, and as a replacement for Michael Tate. And Ms. Arnold she's very anxious to get the ball. Well, I don't need a pun, but to get things moving for the program. So I believe it's de minimis, and it doesn't violate the act, whatever that was. So I'd like to put it on the agenda as item P3 for later in the evening. And
What was that name again?
Michaela Arnold. And as another just item of information, just for the public, the board has been discussing security. We had an executive session last month, which we noted was for security. We're evaluating security of our facilities, the safety of our students and staff, and we're looking at as much as we possibly can in terms of staffing, facilities, technology, and we're just evaluating it to see what we can do, if anything needs done, and what it would be. So that will be ongoing, and after this meeting, the board will have an executive session to discuss security issues afterwards. So, all right, with that, we can move on now. I don't think.
Can you have a vote to accept that supplemental item?
Yes, that's right. We'll need a motion to accept that supplemental. Do we have a motion for that?
Move to accept the supplemental.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay, any questions or anything? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, P3 is now on the agenda. Okay, this time now is the period for public comment on agenda items, action items for the past, items for tonight, any items we might be deliberating. We invite the public to come forward and have a 3-minute unpaused time frame to speak to us and let us know who you are and where you live.
Good evening, Tina Marie Klein, 1009 Toole Street, Montoursville Borough. In relation to the agenda, given the announcement that you just made that the board has been working on discussing security and things like that, I just want to clarify there will not be public discussion on that tonight. There will be no votes on that tonight because I'm a little concerned that that is such an important topic and it's nowhere on here and there has been no communication with the public. And quite frankly, I've been getting literally text messages, Facebook messages that this is going on. When I take a look at resignations of personnel, it doesn't involve the security officers that are stationed at the buildings currently, who I'm told have received letters that they will not be coming back. So there's some concern and there's some information going on out in the public that the board really needs to clarify. And quite frankly, this flies in the face of transparency, that you're not talking about it.
Mr. Schimmel, I have a question. Is that true, what she just stated?
I do not know. I don't know.
Good evening, Sharon Meyer, Fairfield Township. So on the agenda tonight is the health and safety for this upcoming year. And when I looked at it, I thought, well, we didn't have a health and safety committee meeting, so nothing changed because we didn't have a meeting. And then I started to look at it, and on the surface, it looks like not a lot did. And then I got to contact tracing. And what I found interesting is that, and I don't know if anyone else noticed this during that, is a change in wording. And of course, it's a word that I think we had considerable discussion over, at the meeting that this was approved on. So currently, under contact tracing, how it reads is, the district will continue its consideration of the Pennsylvania Department of Health contact tracing requirements. District administration will immediately notify the public upon any changes to contact tracing and quarantining protocols. That's how it currently stands. That's how it went through the Health and Safety Committee. That's what was voted on by the board. Now, it changed to say, the district will continue to follow the Pennsylvania Department of Health contact tracing requirements, and optional exceptions will be allowed as deemed by CDC and/or PADOH. So I think we all know the words I'm pointing out here are, our original says consideration, and the one that is looking to be approved tonight says follow. And I think that was part of the larger broad discussion last time was, we'll consider the recommendations. We had the discussion, we'll follow the law, that came in another section, right? But we consider recommendations. And with everything flying around right now, we're starting to hear new variants are coming and whatnot, and California may be looking at putting masks on their kids for schools again. I just want to make sure that as a board, you are all ahead of this when it comes to this, and that it has consideration and not follow, and that the public is not blindsided. Because I was surprised, because I just, again, assumed because there was no meeting in the Health and Safety Committee that nothing had changed. So I was surprised that that section has changed, and I didn't know if anyone else noticed it either. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and going through it rather than just making sure you all know.
Sharon, could I ask you one more time to go ahead and which item?
So it's item E, And it's contact tracing in combination with isolation and quarantine in collaboration with the state and local health departments. So this one I have right here is the one that got approved at that January meeting. And this is the one that's on the website currently, as it stands, was published on February 4th. This is what I printed out from the attachment for the meeting tonight. So it's section E, contact tracing.
And, read the.
So originally, what we have currently in place that was approved at the January meeting is the district will continue its consideration of the Pennsylvania Department of Health and contact tracing requirements. District administration will immediately notify the public upon any changes to contact tracing and quarantining protocols.
I have that here if you need it. This was the intent.
Okay.
And I think there's a bigger discussion about the word around this tonight when we get to that item.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along now, we'll move to the business manager's report, and what do you have for us?
So I sent those out this morning, real short notice. So I think we'll wait until August, is that, so everyone has time to look at it? Is that okay with you, Mr. President? Or does no one need more time? I mean, you didn't send me any questions yet, so I don't know how far
I
you've
need
gotten.
time.
Okay, that's what I figured.
But I do have a question for you.
Yes. I don't know if I'll have an answer, but
Why wasn't this given to us last week?
because we weren't here last week. Our first day we were here was Monday, and we were in training all day on Monday. And so we worked late last night and early this morning, so we could get it out to you as early as possible this morning.
You know, private business doesn't shut down when things need to be done. I don't know why there wasn't somebody to send this to us. We got the agenda 2 weeks ago.
But it couldn't be done because you can't do it until after the first of the month, because we don't get bank statements, we don't get all that stuff until then. So we can't create this until after the end of the month is done and the banks, we can get the information from the bank. And this is the way we've done it in the past too, when we haven't been able to get it in time for July or December, we usually wait a month. and
Okay,
then do it.
Randy, and I asked you for them years because I went back through my records and did not find 1 year.
You didn't
where
ask
we've
me
done
for
like
years.
this. I sure did.
You didn't ask me for the years.
Well, the critical question is, Randy, by waiting, does it delay anything
No.
vendor-wise, commercial-wise, interest-wise,
here's the
anything like
thing.
that?
When I asked to take the budget back and relook at it, the reason why that couldn't be done was because we had bills to pay and it couldn't be put off. So why all of a sudden can they be put off? And you also told me, Brandy, that,
Okay, I don't,
wait. In the email, you also told me that the bills have been paid already.
yes, the bills have been paid.
So why are we even approving the checks?
Because you're acknowledging that they are proven, that you guys approve them.
What? How can we approve something that's already been paid?
Ron, you've done this for years.
Oh, I know, but before.
And this is how it's been done before me too.
Before we was told that the only bills that were paid before we approved them was ones that come on a monthly basis, like the electric bill, the water bill, the bills like that.
On a normal month, we just pay the ones that have due dates so that we don't get penalties. At the end of the year, we take and we try to get everything in before June 30th to help close out the year as best as possible. It's a practice we've had for years before I even became the business manager. If the board says we don't want you paying anything until it goes on the board agenda, I don't have a problem doing that. But we will incur penalties.
That's not what I
and-
said.
Well, that's what
That's
you're.
not what I said. What I said was, I realize you have to pay bills that come in on a monthly basis before the board approves them. But there's more than just those bills in this.
There's other bills too, yes, that need to be paid.
Right.
So, and you brought up, you said that you asked to relook at the budget and you couldn't because bills needed to be paid. I don't understand that.
I was told that we had that night, we voted on the budget, and it had to be voted on that night because we couldn't postpone it. It had to be done by June 30th.
The budget does need to be approved by June 30th, yes.
But the world doesn't come to an end if it wasn't.
No, but I didn't understand what you're saying there.
I'm saying that one of the reasons given was because bills have to be paid. Bills have to be paid, so a budget needs to be passed so bills can be paid, because if the budget wasn't passed, you couldn't pay any bills until it was passed. If it wasn't passed on the 30th. The school would shut down, there would be no bills, no payments made to anybody or any.
You can't pay anything until your budget is passed.
Exactly.
Yes, that's
Exactly.
correct. Okay, I wasn't understanding what you were saying there, sorry. Okay. Now that we've covered that,
Brandy, let me just say, this has been historical practice by the district. There's never been a finding in an audit that I know of. I've never heard that there's any regulations being violated in a bank. So I see no reason that we can't continue this past practice that has been acceptable to everything from those who pass laws, to auditors, to the federal. So I think we just move forward, so go ahead.
so I sent that to you, and I was just going to give you a quick update with the numbers from the state budget, which had lots of great news, which I did send out to you yesterday, which puts us in a great position for next year with the increases. The basic ed funding increased $571,058, which is 7.1%, which I don't ever remember happening. So that is great. Special ed funding increased $79,260, which is a 5.8% increase. And what's great about that is a lot of times, or what's been past practice with the state is they would give us an estimate for our special ed funding, then we would submit our Act 16 in October, and then that number would change. With the new budget, they passed that number doesn't change, so that's what we will actually be getting for next year for our special ed funding, which is great news. The right to learn block grant stayed the same, but we did hear about some new one-time monies that were given out, and we're going to be receiving for the physical safety and security grant $128,354, and for the mental health safety security grant the same amount, $128,354. So the application is going to be coming out August 1st. It's a quick turnaround. August 30th, it has to be back in. There's different tiers that have to be met in that, and they're working on getting all that finalized right now with more information for us. But those are good things. That puts us in a position for next year. We're not going to have to make up any deficit that we may have seen from this year's budget. Also, I will comment that our earned income tax came in right in line where I predicted, just a little over $4 million. So that has come in well. We got that number yesterday, and so I'm confident that will be good. that's all I really have on budget news. Talking about auditors, auditors are gonna be here at the end of the month, starting doing preliminary work as we finalize everything. And the new software is moving strong through. We're still working in the old software. We will be until October, but we're still continuing with training with that, and we've been spending a lot of time working and learning through that. So, and that's all I have for this evening.
Okay, and then with that, we'll move on to the superintendent's report and work around the room, hearing what the administrators have to say. I guess we'll finish up with you, how's that? So, Mr. Myers, what do you have for us tonight, Henry?
Well, we finished the summer program. Thanks to Mr. Yonkin came over and provided a lot of assistance with that. We had, how many, 120, 130 students participate in that. Great feedback from the parents. We had some field trips to the Liberty Arena for bowling and Fly World as well. So that went really well. I want to thank Mr. Knopfel right now. We're in the building right now cleaning up the facilities and adding some new smart boards with Sebastian and the crew there. So, and we're starting in the heat of the scheduling process right now. So that's very time consuming, and we look at each student that comes in McCall, and we try to pinpoint areas where specifically they need support with our support teachers and so forth. So we have a busy summer. The rest will go. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Young?
Pretty much the same thing he said. Also, Sebastian, his crew, I think they rolled in there. That group is in there like not even a day and a half. And I mean, I know the valley's small, but all the smart boards are up and in, and they look great. Teachers are pretty excited to get them, and they're getting all the floors and everything cleaned out there at the valley. And just getting things in line to get the year started with setting up class list and putting together the schedule and all that fun stuff right now. So kind of missing the kids, but kind of enjoying the time without them to get some things caught up. So,
Mr. Hanner?
Yeah, right now we are starting the training for Quality Behavior Solutions, which is a de-escalation and physical management training for our staff. Vanessa Lorson as well as Shane Babenslager are taking the lead on that. They are both trained to deliver this for our staff, and we have the first session coming up this week. We have a second session with staff next week, and then we have a third session with staff in August.
Thank you. And Mr. Johnson, welcome, and what do you have for us?
Well, I've extended my drive by a couple miles, but I've come in, felt very welcomed right out of the gate. We're in the process of scheduling as well, making sure that the offerings that we need to have are in the right place with kiddos, getting settling in myself as well, and learning the systems and kind of the procedures of how things work here in Montoursville. Did some surveys to some staff to get some feedback for what their needs are and what they're looking for, and the rest of it is kind of leaning on where I need to lean and asking where I need to ask, but ready to hit the ground running and excited to keep trying to build the plane in the air a little bit as we get our footing. So,
Mr. Termina.
Yeah, it's very strange. So we finished our engagement of the community with the tours. We wrapped up with those. We had about 29 total. I want to thank Joe and Ron. Ron showed up to a couple of those tours, both buildings. So it's good to have some other district folks there for those tours. Again, 29 people came through. Eye-opening for some, for others it's what they expected to see, and I think overall it was positive experience for the district. It was fun for me to be back out in the townships and kind of where I grew up, so it was a good experience. I think we did a nice job engaging the community with that particular project. Now it's up to you guys to pick it up from there and make that final decision. So it was a real pleasure doing that. So.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Joe, have anything for us? proceeds?
Nothing today.
Sebastian, we've heard what you're up to.
Yeah, lots of smart board work right now. Like Jamie said, we're finished up with the Valley today, and we're working at Lighter, and we'll be moving to McCall next. Other than that, the guys are still working on processing devices, and we'll continue collecting those until the end of the month when all of our classes finish up that we still have going on. And at the end of last month, I should also mention, well, if you remember earlier in the year, we had some issues with our fiber that was feeding McCall. So at the end of last month, we got back out and we did a full review of the fiber feeding the building. Found out that there were definitely some issues with that fiber strand, so we were able to get that worked out, and we replaced around 2,000 feet of fiber running through town. It's all brand new stuff, and came in well under what I expected it cost. So all good news there too.
Good. Joe, you saved a little gas money on mowing?
Yeah. 2 weeks.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on now to the agenda items. We have under, I think, well, let's go with G1. G1 is approval for the agreement between the district and Blast IU-17 for website hosting. Is there a motion on that?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions on that or discussion? Or I believe this is what it's been in the past, right? Okay. All right, then all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. And the health and safety plan. And you got a note from me of what I propose as an amendment on that, but I think we need to have a motion and then a second, and then we can have some discussion on it and tweak it after we've had the motion and second and offer an amendment that way, I believe is the way to do it. Or, let's see, somebody help me out here. Can we revise it before we... Now, let's have a motion in a second. Let's have a motion in a second.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, discussion on that, and if I could read off the bat, it's the item that I had suggested in an email that I would propose on item 3A, where it reads, after considering the unique needs of our district and taking public input, it reads, the school board voted on May 24, 2021, that we will maintain mask optional for the 2022-2023 school year. Of course, that's an error. The correction on that would simply be that it would read this way. After considering the unique needs of our district and taking public input, the district will maintain mask optional status for the 2022-2023 school year. And I would have no problem even striking out that second sentence below that. Just eliminate it. Just give us the control we want and need locally, period. So, I would propose that change.
I'm going to have to respectfully disagree. And I know I probably am the minority here, but I would prefer to amend that to say that the district, for liability reasons and ethical reasons, this is why I would simply state that we will follow the recommendations by CDC and or the Department of Health. Currently, there's no mask mandates, just recommendations, but there are recommendations for when we are in the high community risk. And I think that would be sending a nice message to our students and faculty on the importance of community health and good citizenship by following recommendations of experts. And I would not feel comfortable taking out the incidental masking because, again, we are not the experts. And as a board of 12 trying to say, we know what's best for our district, health-wise, I don't think that's wise.
well, I believe that incidental masking, that was during the team.
Right. If somebody comes in and they, you know, they tested positive and then they were supposed to recommend it to be masked for a full 10 days afterwards, but they could come back to school.
Right. And we've maintained control over that process anyway during the year.
And if we change it to follow recommendations of CDC, then you wouldn't need that. When the Department of Health, you wouldn't need that second chance.
I have to agree with you, Dave, the way you worded it, because I have to ask you, Dottie, how the recommendations of the experts work out for you the last time.
Well, we don't want to get down that road, but we have,
The follow part is just a strong word, follow. It's,
well, Danny, we're on, oh, you're an A still?
yeah.
Okay, because we have that E, that Sharon.
Yeah, right, yeah, right. No, I'm still on the A thing,
Okay.
but when she's saying she wants to switch it to follow, it's, I don't think follow is a proper word. We're not following. I mean, the consideration is,
Would you accept consider?
considers better than follow. Yes.
Where, I'm missing something there. Where would that be?
Dottie was saying she wanted to change it to follow.
So rather than
In-
say
in-
follow, say
in
we
section A.
consider the recommendations.
In the first or second sentence? I'm sorry.
It would change it totally to just say that the district will consider recommendations by CDC and or the Department of Health regarding the wearing of masks.
So you're proposing that first sentence is gone completely, then we have new language altogether?
I don't see how our district is any more unique than any other district. Our kids are the same, our community is the same, we all have health.
So are we the only district that's not following CDC guidelines?
I don't know what the other districts are doing.
No, I think everybody's all over the map on that.
I think liability is an issue. If we think that we're trying to make our own decisions on health and not following, or even considering experts' advice.
I think the only way that comes into play is if it's mandated. If it's not a mandate, then I don't see how we can be liable for the way we operate.
It's also the message that we're giving our students.
What message are we giving? Loyalstock's not wearing a mask, Montoursville's wearing a mask, and then they go together all weekend and play at each other's house all weekend? It's no message.
Well, we're not mandating it, we're still, but considering it and giving them the message that when we're at a high risk level and you're going into crowded situations, perhaps your teacher is a high risk person. Maybe you should have that option of being considerate for your teacher and wearing it and telling them that those recommendations have meaning to them.
And I still, in the thought process of that, the parents should be able to say whether the kids wear a mask or not.
I understand that, and both of them are basically mask optional, but I just think ethically, morally, good citizenship-wise, it's good to follow the experts.
When they mandate something, yes.
They're giving you recommendations because they've had trouble with mask mandates. So I don't foresee mask mandates coming into fruition.
But Dottie, a recommendation isn't a mandate.
No, but it's highly recommended. And we're just throwing that out by saying it's just mask optional. We're not giving that any consideration. I'd be willing with what Todd's saying and saying we'll consider it. I think that's good citizenship. I don't want to teach our students that it's okay to fight the government all the time, to fight the experts, but trust the experts.
I don't think making it optional is fighting the experts.
While arguing with me about considering the CDC guidelines is.
I'm fine with the word consider.
Could we do both, like, the district will seek to maintain mask optional status for the blah, 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 and will continue to consider recommendations?
Continue to consider in seeking to maintain mask optional, probably be a little bit better.
If it's consider, is there any reason not to have it in there, I guess, is the starting point.
The only thing that would do would spur a conversation or a motion or a vote on what our district would do specifically, I believe, is how that would play out, using the word consider versus shall or follow. And that would have to be based on, from my understanding, the local infection rate, depending on its severity.
I mean, surely this district would do what they need to do if that was the case. I mean, we don't need the state to tell us, you know, to follow or the recommendations of these.
But I don't think so, respectfully, because last year it wasn't. Last year, everybody was adamant that there were no masks to be worn in the school.
Well, yeah, but we weren't shut down. We weren't able to come here, and the kids were fine to come here and learn whether they had a mask on or not. We weren't in any danger. I mean, in years past, we've come into school where you had 3/4 of your staff and your kids wiped out for a week. And there's nobody here because they're all sick. And they come back the next week and everybody's fine. I don't see the difference in do you remember those days when we had these kids come into school and 2/3 of the kids were home because they were sick? Nobody said anything about that. I just don't. I don't think we need to be hashing this any more than what we are. You know, as a staff and as a district, we're going to do what we have to do and do the best we can. And I think parents are well aware of what they need to do as well. I don't think this is a situation where we should be alarmed with a word.
Anyway, Dave, so, like, I guess in my mind, consider recommendations at least tells parents that there may be an ongoing discussion, so if things change, you know, Dottie could raise it and there could be a vote. I mean, at least gives people a heads, I mean, because I think people were upset when the original vote was mask optional, and then, you know, like, it at least implies there's going to be ongoing consideration of it, meaning there may be, but it would still need to be voted on and passed.
Correct, that's what I
So,
said.
yeah.
Well, we had people on both sides upset. We're not gonna make a lot of people happy no matter what we did. And it's just a question now as a board member, which, you know, where do we wanna land? What's our thinking right now on how that should read? And I'm all for letting this decision in the hands of the district and simple as that. And we have a nursing staff that is constantly reviewing all the protocols and recommendation and guidance, and they have a significant input on what they think we should be doing. They input that to the superintendent's office, and so we've been managing it locally. So I'm more inclined to just let it in our hands. It doesn't mean we're disregarding them. It just means that we're saying we're going to manage this, and then we have people that we trust to oversee this properly. It doesn't say that we're making these, you know, we're making those assessments. We have the nursing staff who's been really hands-on through all this.
But we aren't giving it to the nursing staff to consider guidelines the way you want to word it. You're just saying flat out, mask optional, which is, the recommendation is not a mandate by CDC, but I think it's just better, what's the word I want? Optics. To say that we're going to at least consider the experts' recommendations.
And we could get into the debate about which experts too. That's what's been maddening about this last 2 years, is who's experts. I was sitting at Wegmans lunchtime today reading a study that was done on two school districts in North Dakota. What's the capital of North Dakota? Who can help me?
Fargo? Bismarck?
I believe it was, it was, I know, and one was the West, whatever city was, school district, and the other was the name of the city, that school district. And there was about 20,000 students, and they evaluated a ton of criteria, and what they ended up realizing is that during the peak, some of the peaks of COVID, that the district that was masked, in fact, had a slightly higher peak than the district that was mask optional. And if we believe the experts, statistically, that should not be so. The infection rate is a teeny bit higher, really statistically insignificant, for a masked district versus a non-masked district. That doesn't make any sense, but that 20,000, a population, the data set of 20,000 people, that's a pretty healthy statistical basis. So I'm in favor of leaving it in our hands. So,
what you said, Dave, your favor of changing after consideration unique needs of our district and taking public comment, the district will maintain mask optional status for the 22-23 school year, correct?
yes.
And then you're eliminating what's underneath.
Well,
And eliminate what's underneath it. But
I'd be okay with leaving that.
what about add to that, unless mandated by the state otherwise?
Well, we actually have that down in I, though. I says the district will follow the laws and review any recommendations made by PDE and DOH. So if there's a law passed, we have to follow it. We're stuck. So I think that captures that notion. That's why I didn't.
There's no reason to discuss anything in A.
Right.
It's, keeping it simple helps.
I agree.
You know.
Let's just forget about A
So I
altogether.
applies to A, you're saying.
Oh, I would overrule A. It overrules everything. If there's a law passed, you bend the law.
Let's move forward.
I'm for your idea. I guess I could offer a motion, even though the president, right, am I supposed to? Okay, yeah, I would amend it. I'd like to amend that verbiage in A to, as we've discussed, where the phrase, the school board voted on May 24, 2021, that we'd strike that and replace it with the words, the district. So I'd like to offer that motion.
And the 22, 23.
Oh, well, that'll be okay. Yeah, we'll keep that in there. Yeah, just striking out that one phrase and adding the district.
Move to approve.
All right.
Second.
All right. Well, that was my motion. So Ron seconded it. We have a third.
Oh, was it your motion? Okay.
Yeah.
He thirded it, yeah.
Yeah. All right, any more discussion on that? And I'm okay with leaving that phrase in there, the second sentence in. I'm okay. That's for our quarantining, and okay, fine. So we can take that separately if you'd like. All right, then all in favor of that change in the verbiage to A, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right.
And if you want to change it to E.
Yeah, let's jump to E. I got so consumed by A, I frankly just went right over that tweak in E. Dan, can you read the current verbiage in E for us?
The district will continue its consideration of the Pennsylvania Department of Health contact tracing requirements. District administration will immediately notify the public upon any changes to contact tracing and quarantining protocols.
So is that intended to give the district officials, i.e. the nurses, the leeway.
Yes.
That's what
And
we voted on
administrators,
in
yes.
the winter, yeah.
Yep.
Who wrote this as it was? Did the nurses write it as proposed?
This, I
here?
believe, is that committee got together to do this. This had the public input, the nurses were on that, the administrators were on that.
Well, Sharon said this was not what that committee
So,
said.
no, the old one, the consideration
This is
one
the-
was.
The new one,
Who wrote this new one?
Well, if you recall.
I don't know where that
At the executive session, I asked if it was okay if we used our internal committee and we didn't have the public component to the committee, and everybody was, yeah, let's just get it done and.
So that's what I was wondering if the nurses wrote it this way, because they are following.
I don't believe there was a meeting to,
Okay.
Was it just like copy and pasted in there?
It seems like it was in there
Yeah.
in an old document.
Like it was an older version.
I
And I
think
thought
that's
they
the
were
way it was
different, but I didn't go back
prior
and
to.
compare that copy.
It was the follow that got me.
But we had lengthy public discussion about leaving it that way, and I think we came up with some, I mean, that this allowed the nurses to.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't the nurses that wrote it this way, because we did decide.
I don't believe so.
I think if we were satisfied with what was put in place in the previous plan, we could just simply have a motion to incorporate previous wording
Move
instead
to
of present.
incorporate previous wording.
Second? Okay,
Yeah, so just copy it off of the,
all right.
like copy it
Okay.
directly.
I like that.
All right, any more discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Anything else on the plan?
On F, it's just that second sentence does not read
Yeah.
correctly. We will allow optional volunteering testing can take place. Should it be, we will allow optional volunteering testing to take place?
Yeah, that makes more sense, doesn't it?
Yep.
Change the word can to to.
Yeah.
We need a motion?
I just think that's a correction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just, that's a typographical correction, I think that's understood, it should be that, so I don't think it's needed, just, we understand, it's to, not can, so, all right.
I have a question on that. Are we continuing, if the parents want to do testing at the school so the nurse can see the testing being done, is it going to be done in the building or outside the building?
We moved it in the building once this was passed. And I'll tell you where this comes in. At the high school level, we were doing some trips. There was a Key Club one where they went to the Kiwanis' district convention. They were required to test 24 hours prior to arrival. They couldn't get their hands on any tests at that point of the school year. And it was after this passed. So they came in and they tested in front of us, we signed a document, and they went off to their convention. And that's voluntary and optional. It gets parents away to get their kids to these events. It used to cut quarantining down, but I think we got that down as administrators to the bare minimum without even having to do testing. But if things would swing and they're going to require, if we can trim days being out of school, if we can trim that down by offering a voluntary test, it just makes sense to get our kids back in the buildings. So.
And plus, I mean, MedExpress, my daughter had COVID last week, I'm negative, but MedExpress was 2 hours again. So
It's
you know what I mean?
creeping
Like,
back
it
up
also
now.
helps
Well, I
people
think
sitting in the parking lot.
We're back in high transmission, so when we hit that high transmission,
I tested 3 times.
that's when you see those delays again at the test sites. So.
Curtis, you're good, you got 6 foot.
Okay. I was gonna wear a mask, but I didn't have to irritate him.
No, that's more like 4.5.
I was going head to head.
So this is slightly different, but are we okay with this? I mean, I'm okay with it. So just the typographical change in can to, all right. Any more, we want to tweak this or not? If not, then now ready to vote on accepting the health and safety plan as amended. So we have a motion to accept the health and safety plan. No, we already have that motion. We discussed that. All right, we're ready to vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. All right, moving on to G3.
May I just add, and respectfully, Dottie, I do respect your position, but I want to thank the board for keeping this intact as is. It really helped direct the admin team in finishing the school year pretty solidly with attendance and keeping our kids in school. So I appreciate the minimum amount of changes here. I know our parents will too. There's nothing new to learn on this thing, so thank you. And again, that's with all due respect, Dottie.
I understand.
Okay, moving on to G3, approval of agreement between the district and Lycoming and Clinton Joiner Board for the student assistance program for the upcoming school year. And we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Moving on to personnel, I believe we can bunch P1, P2, and the added P3 together. So we have the resignations from support staff. You see them there. The support staff addition, and we got a response on what that new IU position really means. We're just bringing somebody in house, and then P3 for the head softball coach. So I take a motion to approve P1 through P3.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. And any discussion or anything, any clarifications? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And on the transportation, we have T1, the approval of the promised land busing rates. We have those amounts of $355.26.
Nope, those need to be changed. Right there.
Oh.
I sent that out earlier in the email.
I'm sorry.
The long line was looked at when they put those.
The correct amounts are 23,2052 and 22,2007. All right, I'm sorry, I missed that one. So approval of those amounts. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And then T2 is the transportation contract. That we discussed contractual issues last month and giving guidance on how we'd like to see it negotiated. I made a few notes on the highlights, I think. And we had the question on the $15 an hour answered. Is there, well, let's go ahead and make a motion and second, and then we can discuss it if there's any questions. Is there a motion to approve that transportation contract for Promised Land? So I'll make the motion then, because that's a very critical transportation contract, friends. All right. The compensation, it is, the increments shown there, the percentages are an amount over what we're paying the regular contractors. Do I understand that correctly, Randy, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
in the old contracts, we were paying them 5% more.
Okay. So this is actually a slight, not quite the same increment over what the regular contracts get. So what were the other items we were hashing out as far as how we wanted that negotiated?
We did the fuel clause the same as we did for the regular transportation.
Yeah, okay.
So that was one. We're currently paying $13 for the last 5 years for aides, which we need on there because they're dealing with kids that can't go on regular transportation, so we need someone on there to manage the bus so the driver can drive the bus. So we bumped that up a little bit because they've had no increase for 5 years. And that is just to take care of whatever, $15 is what we're paying. Whatever the contractor decides to pay, that's their decision.
Yeah.
And what were some of the, we are going to provide the special seat belts and stuff that need to be provided for students that have needs with special devices and vehicles.
Is this the standard contract now?
Yes.
Is this the first this has been used? Or?
No, it was used 5 years ago. Well, I don't know if it was used for Promised Land 5 years ago. This is the one that we've been using for the regular transportation, and it was changed. I'll make some edits to accommodate the specialized transportation.
Okay, if there's no questions, then I'll call for a vote.
I'm just gonna say that as with the other contract, bus contract for the other bus contractors that we have for the larger buses, I disagree with paying money for services not rendered. And it's the same thing in this contract, that if the district operates for less than a full school year, the contractor shall be guaranteed compensation for at least 175 days. I disagree with that, just like I did in the other contract. And I also disagree with the amount over state formula that we're going to be paying. In the 5th year, we're going to be paying 108% of the state formula. The people that's paying the money, which is the taxpayers of this district, don't get breaks like that. And I just want to let you know that I'm against it. And just like I was against it in the other contract.
Brandy, how many different bidders did we have for this contract?
We didn't do a bid for it.
In your opinion, would there be other companies that?
We might get some big companies that might, is it Susquehanna, or who does Williamsport have? STA or something, like they might, I don't know, because they can't find drivers in Williamsport, so I don't know how, I don't know if they would or not.
I guess what I'm asking is, looking from the standpoint that this is a contractor that we've been very pleased with.
I mean, we change routes daily with this, we do daily mileage with this contractor.
This is a difficult contract for, to fill.
Yeah, she's currently driving without a contract.
The runs are difficult. There are many things asked of this contractor that aren't asked of our other contractors.
Correct.
I guess I'm looking from the standpoint then that because it is a contract that we're looking to continue, we would be interested in negotiating, and that's really what this ended up being, a negotiation. It's not, we can't just go to them and say, okay, this is it, take it or leave it.
No, and she had presented the letter that we all sat down and went over in exec session, and we went back with what we were willing, what the majority of the group thought was reasonable, and, there was some meeting in the middle there.
We did counter offer basically. To
Yes.
everything.
They were looking at 111% in that 5th year. So we kind of split the road with them, if I remember correctly.
So basically, I'm looking at it, in order to keep a good employee, we negotiated, they were asking for more than we ended up with, so it was a true negotiation. But again, we're continuing employment of a contractor that has done a very good job.
And they're transporting our special ed students. I mean, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
I don't
it
think you wanna
changes
go bargain
daily.
basement like that,
The routes change daily. It's some of our most difficult students, to handle, and
It's the same thing that happens in every other school district.
So do we get the special education funds that we'll be keep getting, can that be used towards the busing end of things or not?
yeah, it's considered into our special education
That's right.
costs.
So,
When you have to show that, your costs are there, that
Right,
does
so
get calculated
it's
into
not
it.
like it's coming out of the taxpayers.
Well, it all goes into one.
It's all coming out of there, but.
It's all
but-
one pocket.
Right, but it is something that's being supplemented.
Right, because we calculate that
Creating-
into our Act 16 that we report in October.
Keep in mind though, you can't guarantee that that same funding's gonna be year after year after year, Danny.
No, I completely, understand that part of it, but like I say, when you talk about your bus contractors and where we're at, we've discussed this over the last few years of possibly looking elsewhere to get our kids transported, and I just cannot put a price tag on both sides of the coin here of what we have and the people that we have delivering these kids back and forth to our, I would not want to see somebody come in from the outside, and I think over the years, the bus contractors have been more than, willing to work with this district. So I understand what you say, Ron, about the 174 days or whatever, but those buses, before they even roll out, and start picking up these kids, the maintenance and the money that they gotta put into those buses before the school year even begins, and the things they have to have upkeep on and do, they need to be compensated for those things.
Well, and if we're gonna talk about student safety, on the drive to and from school is the highest probability of something happening to our kids.
It's a little different today than it was when I was a kid and rode a bus, because when I rode a bus when I was a kid, my bus driver smoked a cigar, and so did his wife on the other bus. So, they smoked cigars, and I was green every time I got off the bus because the windows wouldn't go down, so, I think things are quite a bit better today than what they.
Oxygen deprived.
Oh, it was, close to an hour and 10 minutes to be exact. It was a little touch and go there some days.
It's all clear now.
It basically looked like his shirt right there, pretty much.
I hope you get through first period.
It was usually on like the spring days where it was 90 degrees outside and the windows would not go down and that cigar smoke just filled the whole place up.
Okay. All right, I think we talked this one through pretty well. All in favor of T2, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
All right, moving on to policies, we have policy 122, and yet there's a extra word in there, it says copy of, I don't think that's supposed to be in there, correct, Dan? And that,
Once it's approved, that comes out, yeah.
yeah, okay, all right, thank you. So first readings on those two policies as listed. Do we have a motion to approve those first readings? Second. Any question or clarifications needed, discussion?
When was the policy committee meeting to determine these changes, or suggest these changes be made?
Met a while ago.
It wasn't long ago.
Is that late March? I don't have an exact date.
Public?
Not public, no.
Any committee meeting is required to be public?
Well, that was just you and the administration?
Yes.
Yeah, that
The
was just.
chair and,
Yeah, that was just an administrative recommendation with the Joe meeting. It really ended up, it's almost an administrative recommendation when it comes right down to it. It's not a committee meeting per se.
The other question I have is from time to time, the state comes down with recommendations for policy changes. Is this one of them?
no, this was a result of an incident we had at a dance. We actually had conflicting language in these two policies. And what it did was more important than the punitive part of the policy. One required a student assistance referral, the other did not. And I think if you have kids coming to dances having had some adult beverages, I think the SAP referral is probably the most important part of any of that. So we aligned it so it's the same language in both now. So it's not anybody's recommendation other than the district administration to align policies.
Are we discussing?
Yep.
Is nicotine, tobacco, and vaping products included in unlawful controlled substances? Just for clarity to students.
I don't think that's how that reads. I think that's primarily alcohol, steroids, and drugs. Tobacco, chewing tobacco, vapes are not included in there.
The problem is, there's some vapes that are infused with.
Yep, and they have them at a percentage where we cannot prosecute. We've been down that road.
You can't prosecute
Yep.
if it's got THC in it?
There is a certain threshold that triggers that. I don't remember what the number is, because it's been a while since we dealt with that, but there is a threshold to meet, a certain percentage in there that has to, and then they have to send it out to be tested, which is that's a whole different world for us. So,
Is the 30-day suspension new for the first?
no,
It's always been that, and that's been consistently enforced across all schools, above the money. And so parents know that, the athletes know that, the band, everyone.
especially with this change, they're gonna be, yes, they're going to become familiarized.
I was gonna say, I almost want the parents and the people to sign saying they're aware of, but it's always been 30 days, so that's not a change to me.
Any additional questions or clarification needed?
Is, are pictures posted on social media considered known or observed to have been?
Yeah, any way we become aware,
Okay.
we'll trigger these policies. And there are lots of different ways.
Okay, then, hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And that concludes our agenda items. Moving on now to other reports, committee reports, and the Vice President, you want to walk us through them?
Okay, I don't have anything to report for PSTA. Policy Committee,
Nothing new to report.
okay. IU,
I gave everyone the last little summary sheet from the meeting I was at. The technology report section of that handout, I guess they talked to all superintendents about this tech pool legal counsel. Is that something we're doing, or?
It's something that I would like to do for at least 1 year. One of my goals for this year is to kind of review some of our tech-related policies and procedures in the department, and I think that pool, that resource would be good to have during that period.
Okay, do you know now, I think in the meeting they said they needed a district commitment by June 30th, so I'm not.
Yeah, so it's something that I've expressed that we would be interested in.
Okay.
But I think that it also depends on how much interest from other districts they get. It's
Okay.
going to depend on how they move forward.
That's all.
Okay, that's it. Anything else? Dr. Beard, you can talk about?
No, I mean, there's some interesting mental health bills going through Harrisburg, but those are, to increase grants for mental health specialists. But those have not been voted on yet, to my understanding.
Okay. LCTC, Mr. Schumer.
Oh, I thought I was going to be able to attend the meeting, but logistically I was caught in couldn't make it. I was going to do it by Zoom, but I ended up not being able to due to travel issues, so.
Okay. Mr. Ulmer, anything from Memorial Gardens?
A few days, then will be the anniversary of the Flight 800 tragedy. The renovation fundraising is ongoing. We'll have a committee meeting actually tomorrow to get some figure updates.
Okay. Anything with budget?
Just thank you to Brandy for shepherding through the state changes that she was able to bring to our district.
Definitely good news.
Yes,
And while you're talking, anything on Montoursville Foundation?
nothing to report on that one, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Albert, Building and Grounds?
Grass is brown.
Oh, it's brown. So is mine, and I'm even up in the...
We need some rain. Joe just need to work on sprinkler systems a little bit. There's some people around the community who are a little upset with how brown the grass is turning on the premises, but other than that, doing a good job.
It's crispy too.
Isn't that some kind of an adaptation to no water? It's good. It didn't turn brown at the time.
It's not going to be good here shortly.
Okay, extracurricular?
Nothing at this time?
Okay, back to you.
Okay, at this time we'll have the closing
Mr.
section.
Schumer?
Yes.
Before we go to that, I have a question back to buses. I have been contacted by residents of buses that are running right now, and I questioned it, and I got the answers back. Thanks to Mr. Taramino. But I'm curious as to why we're running full-size buses for one of them for 8 students and the other one for 9 students. I understand that you're probably using ESER's funds for it, but ESER's funds is taxpayer money too. And we have to be fiscally responsible with the way we spend that taxpayer money. So I'm kind of curious why we're using full-size buses, along with the people that have contacted me, asking why.
We don't have, the contractor that has the smaller vehicles is using them to transport kids for the summer, because they all have their own programs also. So the contract that you just approved, that runs pretty much all year round, and those kids are going different directions. So we don't have smaller vehicles to be transporting them with.
What about the school vans?
So you want to hire a bus driver?
Well, no, I'm not saying one way or another.
No, I'm just saying, like,
All I'm saying is that if we got a big bus that we're using, I mean, a school van is a lot smaller. I don't know if that same bus driver can drive our school van or not. Is
no,
that
because
possible?
they're not insured on our, because it's part of a licensing.
Okay, so
We would actually have to hire them to drive our vehicles, and we would have to carry insurance on them.
I'm not disagreeing with
So,
anything. I'm
but
just using
for that
common sense
amount,
here.
for that amount of time, and for the simple fact that our vans are used a lot for our sports, are taking them still. Sometimes the maintenance has to use them to move things around along with the trucks. They're being used quite a bit also. Cheerleaders had them for, what, 5 days? Gone, so.
So would the contractor consider maybe buying a van for the summer
I'm
months?
selling one.
There you go.
Not for, summer school is, Curtis, how long is that?
8 days.
8 days.
Yeah, they're not gonna invest in a van for eight
How many days?
8,
8
Are you
days.
serious?
Yeah.
Well, see, these are all things that I need to know.
yeah. And then,
Makes sense.
Cigar smoke.
Because they're not currently running. They only ran for 8 days in June.
And how much did that cost the taxpayer?
I would have to go through and look at it again. I don't remember off the top of my head. But, they ran,
But we're paying for those full-size buses like they were full of kids.
yes,
We're paying the same fee,
we're paying what we pay.
exactly.
So, but the practicality of finding something for 8 days just isn't, it doesn't pay off in the end.
So what would happen if we just said that parents had to bring the kids to the school those 8 days?
I would cheer up and down because you know how hard it is to figure out schedules and because you're trying to group kids that are on 14 buses onto 4 buses and
It's just one of
you
the,
know, like,
it's
yeah,
just one of those
but-
unfortunate, it's one of those
I don't-
unfortunate things that you have to deal with, is what I'm looking at, right?
Unfortunately, those kids wouldn't come.
That's
they
right.
wouldn't
They
show up.
wouldn't.
They wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I have 2 kids that attend the program, they love
Right.
it.
So,
It would
I mean,
create-
I'm just playing devil's advocate just to make the point that it's 8 days, it's what has to happen, correct? It's what we have to do. What other
We don't-
alternatives do we have?
No, we don't have to.
What other alternatives
Right.
do we have?
we don't have the summer school.
We don't run that program.
We don't run the
Which,
program.
which could be coming with, as the funding runs out.
Right.
Or they use the vans and schedule around using the vans.
We can look at that, but as she said, they're not always available.
Those vans coming in the morning, because I was out there every morning, the buses, like, they were full coming in. They must have been on the way home. I think a lot of parents pick their kids up on the way.
Bus 4 and bus 14.
They're the outlying ones that have the long routes that were an hour long, but the kids were so sparse.
That's what I'm saying.
We had to do what we had to do.
And when we raise taxes on property owners and they see buses, large buses being used that only have a few kids in, I get calls.
And I was responding to your emails, there's something I need to look into on here when I responded to your email today. And I didn't know what you were, because right now, we only had those buses running for 8 days in June. We didn't, when you sent that email, we had already been done running those programs.
The one bus from Promised Land, I understood that one. And I already, before you gave me the answer on that Promised Land bus, I had already told these people that that's probably what it was. But it was the large buses that were being used that I was being contacted about.
Okay, so you didn't send me that question, so I didn't know that you were asking about the large buses.
Well, I started out, I emailed you first and got a auto reply that you were
On
out
vacation.
until the 11th. Then I emailed Dan, got an auto reply, but Dan did get back with me and he checked on Monday, yesterday, I believe, and got the numbers for me. And then in the meantime, after that, you replied to me.
Well, or is the alternative, you said it was sparse and you were doing 2 bus, I mean, is the alternative, it would have been 1 bus, but the kids would have been on the bus for
With
like 2
how that thing
hours?
had
Like
to-
4 hours.
Yeah, they've been on too
So
long.
I guess,
and-
I mean, if you
Well, it's
want
probably
to
like
save
3
the
hours
money
and
and do
30
one
minutes.
bus, it
Yes.
becomes untenable for those kids. I mean, I guess that's the alternative, which sounds unacceptable.
I mean, or we can, like, if we continue the program, we can find people to do the job, we can get them,
Keep the van.
keep the van that we were gonna get rid of and
Tom
have,
told me to sell it, so I'll keep it.
so, and we can look at doing that.
That's
I mean,
it, you're gonna keep.
if you're
might as
gonna
well.
keep the programs. But my understanding is this is just temporary while we're getting through COVID to gain skills back.
You want that? Skills, education, you know, like, it's like a school,
Okay. All right, moving on now to the public comment section to close the meeting. Residents, taxpayers, comment on any official action or anything that happened tonight that might be happening? 3 minutes to all of you? Yeah. Seeing that he's not coming forward, we'll move to adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, we'll see.